Greetings, this is N1IR, and we're back to the Q&A section of Safety First. Let's begin. Okay, what is a good way to guard against electrical shock at your station? You want to use 3-wire cords and plugs for all AC-powered equipment. You want to connect all AC-powered station equipment to a common safety ground. You want to use circuit protection by ground fault interrupter. All these choices are correct. What is connected to the green wire in a 3-wire electrical AC plug? Safety ground. What safety equipment should always be included in home-built equipment that's powered by a 120 volts AC powered circuit? A fuse or circuit breaker in series with the AC hot connector. What is the purpose of a fuse in an electrical circuit? To interrupt power in case of overload. Why is it unwise to install a 20 amp fuse in place of a 5 amp fuse? Excessive current could cause a fire. What kind of hazards might exist in a power supply when it's turned off and disconnected? You might receive an electric shock from the stored charge in large capacitors. Which of the following precautions should be taken when measuring high voltage with a voltmeter? To ensure that the voltmeter and leads are rated for the use at the voltage to be measured. How does current flowing through the body causes a health hazard? By heating the tissue, it disrupts the electrical function in the cells. It causes involuntary muscle contractions. All these choices are correct. What is one way to recharge a 12-volt lead-acid station battery if the commercial power is out? Connect the battery in parallel with a vehicle battery and run the engine. What can happen if a lead-acid storage battery is charged or discharged too quickly? The battery could overheat and give off flammable gas or explode. Which of the following is a safety hazard of 12-volt storage battery? Shorting the terminals causes burns, fires, or explosions. What kind of hazards are presented by a conventional 12-volt storage battery? Explosive gas can collect if not properly vented. Which of the following is an important safety precaution to the observer to putting up an antenna tower? You want to look for and stay clear of any overhead electrical lines. What is the maximum safe distance from a power line to allow when installing an antenna? You want to be so if the antenna falls unexpectedly, no part of the antenna can come closer than 10 feet to the power lines. Why should you avoid attaching an antenna to a utility pole? The antenna could contact high voltage power wires. What is good precaution to observe before climbing an antenna tower? Put on a climbing harness and safety glasses. Under what circumstances is it safe to climb a tower without a helper or observer? Never. When should members of a tower work team wear a hard hat and safety glasses? At all times when work is being done to the tower. What is the purpose of a gin pole? To lift tower sections or antennas. Which of the following is an important safety rule to remember when using a crank-up tower? This type of tower must never be climbed unless it's fully retracted. Which of the following establishes ground requirements for an amateur radio tower or antenna? Local electrical codes. What is considered to be proper grounding method for a tower? Separate 8-foot-long ground rods for each tower leg bonded to the tower and each other. Which type of conductor is best used for RF grounding? Flat strap. Which of the following is good practice when installing ground wires on a tower for lightning protection? Ensure that the connections are short and direct. Which of the following is true considering ground conductors used for lightning protection? Sharp bends must be avoided. Which of these precautions should be taken when installing devices for lightning protection and a coaxial cable feed line? Ground all the protectors to a common plate, which is in turn connected to an external ground. What factors affect the RF exposure of people near the amateur station antenna? Frequency and power level, the RF field, distance from the antenna to the person, the radiation pattern of the antenna. All these choices are correct. What do exposure limits vary with frequency? The human body absorbs more RF energy at some frequencies than at others. Which of the following frequencies has the lowest maximal permissible exposure limit? 50 megahertz. What is the maximum power level that an amateur radio station may use at VHF frequencies before RF exposure is evaluated is required? 50 watts PEP at the antenna. What type of radiation are VHF and UHF radio signals? Non-ionizing radiation. Which of the following is an acceptable method to determine that your station complies with the FCC RF exposure regulations? By calculations based on the FCC OET Bulletin 65, by calculating based on computer modeling, by measurement of the field strength using calibrated equipment. All these choices are correct. Which of the following actions might amateur operators take to prevent exposure for RF radiation excess of FCC supplied limits? You just relocate the antenna. How can you make sure that your station stays in compliance with RF safety regulations? By reevaluating the station whenever an item of equipment is changed. What is the definition of a duty cycle during averaging time for RF exposure? The percentage of time that the transmitter transmits. How does RF radiation differ from ionizing radiation, radioactivity? RF radiation does not have sufficient energy to cause genetic damage. If the average time for exposure is 6 minutes, how much power density is permitted if the signal is present for 3 minutes and then absent for 3 minutes, rather than being present for the entire 6 minutes? 2 times as much. What is the duty cycle of one of the factors used to determine safe RF radiation exposure levels? It affects the average exposure of people to radiation. What could happen if the person accidentally touched your antenna while you were transmitting? They might receive a painful RF burn. And that is the end of the Q&A section, Safety First.